Oh yeah, look, it's squirrely. Just a special machine. Hi everyone, I'm Kennan, and today I'm bringing you something really special. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona at Young Motor Cars to talk about this, the BMW 1 Series M. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing its facts and figures and why it is one of the most collectible modern BMWs. And with that, let's get started. Before I get going, big surprise, this 1 Series M is currently for sale, being auctioned live on, of course, Cars and Bids. And this is something really special. This car is finished in black sapphire metallic, and it is one of 222 cars built for the North American market. Of course, it comes with the obligatory 1M stuff, most critically these competition wheels and a 6-speed manual transmission. But this one is really special because it has just under 2,900 miles. And if you've been in the market for a 1M, after you finish watching this video, click the link in the description below where you can head to the live auction of this one, where you can bid on it and buy it only on Cars and Bids. And we begin the story of the 1 Series M by first talking about the 1 Series and how this car came to be. Introduced in 2004, BMW wanted to create a car that was smaller than the 3 Series and offered a more approachable price point. And they would do that with the 1 Series. They would produce it in a variety of different body styles, a coupe form, and convertible form, and 2 different hatchbacks to cover a wide variety of markets with a wide variety of engines. It was a really versatile car. However, BMW hadn't handed that car over to the M division to breathe real performance into it. It was always a normal, compact car. However, BMW hinted that this might be coming in 2007 when they released the TII concept. Journalists believed that maybe BMW was going to take this really lightweight, small, fun car and make it something special. Although they didn't follow through with that concept, in 2010, BMW would show a version of this car to journalists and confirmed that they were going to build an M variant of the 1 Series. Over the remainder of 2010, BMW would release small details about what this 1 Series M variant would look like, and they would finally officially unveil the car in December of 2010. And one of the things that people really latched onto was the name. This car wasn't called the M1, it was called the 1 Series M, or 1M for short. Dr. Kay Ziegler, who headed the M division at the time, explicitly said that this car would not be called the M1 because of the existing supercar that already had that name, the very first M car built in the late 1970s and 1980s. The M1 moniker would be reserved for any supercar that BMW would do later on. But this isn't that car. Instead, this became the only BMW to have its series number precede the letter M, and it's one of the unique traits to the 1M. The naming oddities don't end there though. Officially, this car is the E82 version of the 1 Series, the coupe version of the 1 Series. However, when it was being developed, this car was nicknamed the Pirate, which is bizarre, but nonetheless, the engineers chose this name evidently because there was a spiced rum they were all drinking that they really liked, and they felt that this car was spicy, so they gave it the name Pirate as a code during its development. Eventually, of course, it would become called the E82 and get that E designation or F designation like all BMWs have. But when it was being developed, it was known as the Pirate because it's spicy. Once the Pirate E82 1 Series M went into production, BMW would produce it in 3 different versions. There's the UR91, which was produced for the left-hand drive European market, the UR92, which is the right-hand drive European market cars, and then there's the UR93, which was the North American spec cars. Although these cars are largely the same, BMW would also make a couple limited edition versions of these cars for specific markets. They would make 450 for the UK market, and each of these cars would receive a plaque inside that said, well, 450. They would also do a limited edition version for the French market of 100 cars, but all of those cars would receive plaques telling you which car was in the series. Number 22 of 100 would have a specific plaque, for instance. Although the United States wouldn't get a limited edition version of the 1 Series M, it was a really special car, as BMW would only produce it from March of 2011 until December of 2011. And in total, BMW would only produce this car for 16 months for the entire world, making it a really limited run of a very special car. During its production cycle, 6,342 cars would be produced, and of those, only 983 would come to the United States. And this car would only be available in 3 colors: Alpine White, Black Sapphire Metallic, and Valencia Orange. For the United States, the production numbers of each color, respectively, are 342 examples of Alpine White, 222 examples of Black Sapphire Metallic, and 435 examples of Valencia Orange. However, they would make some special color cars for the European market. Allegedly, they built 3 for the left-hand drive European market in BMW individual colors and 1 for the UK right-hand drive market. I can't find pictures of these cars anywhere. I'm not sure what colors they were, as I suspect they're squirreled away in collections somewhere, but BMW mostly would offer it in Alpine White, Black Sapphire Metallic, and Valencia Orange. The reason I've gotten so nerdy about all of these production statistics is that is one of the ingredients in why this car is so special. It's relatively rare. Although BMW intended to have this car be a limited production model with only building 2,700 units worldwide, demand was so intense that BMW decided to make it a standard production car. But even so, they didn't make that many of these cars, particularly for the North American market. And that is one of the reasons why they're so sought after and valuable today. But the production statistics are far from the only unique thing about this car, as it received a lot of special touches to differentiate from the normal 1 Series. One of the most obvious things about this car is the way it looks. This thing looks completely different compared to the normal E82 coupe, and there are a variety of details that help in doing that. One of the most notable would be the fender flares on this car, which are over 2 inches wider than that found on the normal 1 Series to accommodate the much wider track that this car has. On the side, it also has these E9X M3 inspired mirrors, and although they look very similar to that found on the M3, they are specific to this particular car. At the front, this car has another E9X M3 inspired bit, and that is the front fascia. The front bumper of this car is much deeper than it is on the normal 1 Series, and this car incorporated air curtains, the idea being that these would alleviate turbulence created by the wheels spinning at high speed, making the car even more aerodynamically stable. Yet another touch taken from the E9X M3 would be these little indicators found on the front fenders. This is a really identifiable thing on the M3, and it's a clever way to incorporate the indicator, so BMW decided to carry that over to this car. At the rear of the 1 Series M, BMW give it a much deeper, lower valence, and they would also give this car a quad exhaust to give it the really punchy look that BMW M cars of this time had. In fact, so many things have been changed about this car. The only things that are shared with the normal 1 Series are the roof, the doors, and the hood. Everything else has been altered for the performance-focused version of the 1 Series. But the special details with this car, of course, are not just skin deep, as BMW would have a great parts bin to rummage around in from the E9X M3, most notably in the suspension department. BMW would use a McPherson strut front setup and a multi-link rear setup with this car, and they would borrow directly from the E90 M3, specifically with the fixed aluminum dampers, the aluminum upper and lower control arms and suspension links, and they would use the front 26.5mm sway bar from the M3. This car would get its own unique 22.5mm sway bar at the rear, but again, BMW didn't want to use too many special components for this car, as they wanted to minimize production costs and, well, they didn't have a lot of time to put this car together. Luckily, they had some great components to use from the already excellent E9X M3 platform. The result of these suspension components meant that the track of this car could grow substantially, from 68.2mm to 71mm at the front, and from 44.2mm to 46mm at the rear, giving the car much more stability on the road and justifying the crazy bodywork that BMW would fit to it. Another component the 1M shares with the M3 would be its brakes, which are easily identifiable by these drilled rotors, and they are massive, 14.2 inches at the front and 13.8 inches at the rear. And although this was a cost-cutting measure for BMW, they were particularly effective on this car because it weighs so little, just under 3,300 pounds. And so the M3 brakes were pretty effective on the M3, but they're even more effective here on the 1M. And now we come to one of the most controversial parts about the 1 Series M, and that would be the engine that lies under the hood. This is the N54 B30 twin turbocharged straight 6. And it's not a dedicated M engine. People would argue that this car wasn't a real M car because, well, its engine was shared with a lot of other cars found in the normal BMW line. It didn't get a dedicated engine like the S65 V8 found in the M3 or the S85 found in the M5 or anything like that. It got a normal engine. However, BMW M would breathe on this engine to give it more performance than a standard car. They would accomplish this by developing special engine management software for this car and a special exhaust system. They would also increase the turbo boost pressure from 8.7 psi to 11.6, giving this car even more potency. The result is 335 horsepower and 332 foot-pounds of torque, but this car has a special trick up its sleeve. It has an overboost function, which is activated by using full throttle at low RPM. An overboost function kicks in, which gives you a burst of about 5 to 7 seconds of 369 foot-pounds of torque, allowing this car to get off the line even faster. Again, this isn't something that you operate by pressing a button. It just does it automatically, and it was a great way for BMW to squeeze even more performance out of this already excellent engine. It should also be noted that this is the second time that BMW ever used turbocharged power in an M car, the first occurring with the X5M and the S63 twin turbocharged V8. And although this isn't a dedicated M engine, it is something special. It was only really shared in this form with the Z4 S-Drive 35i. But it is an excellent power unit, and in a car that weighs less than 3,300 pounds, well, it offers plenty of performance. Moving inside the 1 Series M, there are several special details that I want to talk about, and the first would be the roof. There's no sunroof in this car, and BMW did that for 2 reasons. One was so that people could fit in here with a helmet. This is a driver-centric car. They knew people were going to take this to racetracks, and they wanted to make sure that you could safely fit in here with a helmet on. The other is to lower the center of gravity. BMW didn't want extra glass on a mechanism up there playing around with how this car handles. And so by removing that, you lower the center of gravity of the car, and it makes it handle much better. And so BMW said, no sunroof, 9 for the 1M. The next thing we have to talk about is the transmission found in this car. The 1M famously only came with one transmission, a 6-speed manual, and it is something special. This is the K-Series get-drag 6-speed manual transmission, and it differs from the G-Series that was found in a lot of other cars in that it is much smaller and lighter compared to those. It also has intermediate bearings for much smoother and reliable shifting long term, and it has carbon synchros for first and second gear for added longevity. This car also got a dry sump lubrication system for this gearbox, allowing BMW to play around with the balance of this car and ensure that this gearbox wouldn't overheat through extended track use. In those regards, it's not just a 6-speed manual. BMW really put a lot of effort into making sure that this transmission would hold up under extreme driving conditions. On the topic of the driveline, we have to discuss the differential found in this car, which was shared with, yet again, the M3. It's a 3.08 limited slip differential, and it features BMW's M differential lock system. The way this works is that the differential is filled with a viscous silicone fluid that, when pressurized, pushes against clutches and allowing the differential to put power to whichever wheel has the most traction. It's extremely effective in the E9X M3 platform and is just as effective here in the 1M. Switching away from the mechanically focused stuff, looking around the interior of this car is very Spartan, but it feels very E9X M3 for sure in here. But there are special touches that were unique to the 1M, most notably that all of these interiors were finished in black. You couldn't get anything else. This is exactly how it came. And you had this orange stitching. Really, there wasn't a whole lot else you could do in here. And this car has very few options. It has Harman Kardon, and that's effectively all. Almost a complete stripper spec, which is really what you want with a 1M. Other unique touches include the gauges to this car, which got red needles and a grayish black background, which again was special for this car. But most notably on the steering wheel is the M button. This is the M Dynamic Motor MDM button found on the E60 M5 and also the E9X M3. However, it doesn't do a ton in this car. It really just sharpens the throttle response, and it tells DSC to take a little break and allow the car to slide a little bit more. This car has fixed dampers, unlike the E60 M5 and the E9X M3. You could only get this car with fixed dampers, so there's no EDC or electronic damper control with this car. And that's really all the M button does, but it's sitting there tempting you whenever you want to drive quickly. And let's face it, that's what this car is about, driving quickly. But fast is not necessarily how I'm going to drive this car, as this is a museum grade 1M. That is like, it's not my car and I'm in Arizona today, so not a lot of corners I can really put this car through. But nonetheless, I had to drive this car because it's so special. I've never driven a 1 Series M of any variant, but I have lusted after these cars since they came out. I remember watching Chris Harris's video where he said that M isn't about great engines, it's about great chassis. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that M makes some very exciting engines, but I think that this car certainly serves his argument in that this engine was shared with other cars. It's still excellent in this application, but this car is all about its character it has derived from its chassis. And right away, the things I love the most, the sizing. This car is so small. It's the right size. And the 1M gave birth to that small, rowdy BMW coming back into the range. And this is what the M3 used to be with the E46 and cars like the E30 and honestly the E36 too. It really gave an enthusiast focused car back into the range that was also at a more affordable price point than the M3. But this car is special. All of the detail that BMW put into this wasn't merely a parts bin special car. BMW really wanted to give this car the chops it needed to be a great driver's car, and they did that. It just so happened that they built one of the most balanced cars and like the benchmark for driver's cars in the M3. Whew. And although this car might not have an M engine, it's rowdy. It just started to break traction a little bit in a straight line there. I'm guessing the overboost function came on because it's full throttle. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's 369 foot-pounds of torque for sure. I know that because I happen to own an M car that makes 369 foot-pounds of torque. It feels like really, that's amazing how that overboost function works. You just lay into it and, oh yeah, there it is for sure. Oh, just that, even in a straight line, shows you the character this car has. This was not built to be as balanced as the M3. This was built to be more tail-happy and fun from a driver's perspective. Although the balance of this car is almost perfect 50-50 weight distribution-wise, its intended focus is not the same as the M3. It's clearly different, and I'm here for it. This car is so zippy. And damn, it is not slow. It is not slow. That's really impressive. Oh, good power, small, lightweight car. That is a recipe for success. Oh, this is good. This car is, right away you can tell this car is good. The other thing I have to say, the brakes. There is very little pedal modulation required to operate them. They're big in this car, like I mentioned, and you just barely touch the brake pedal and they are operational. Again, I don't know, BMWs aren't necessarily known for their brakes, don't know how this would hold up on a track, but they feel plentiful in this particular application. This car is just plain fun. And it's just like to carve through traffic in this car. Man, there's a reason BMW drivers drive the way they do. It's just fun and easy in this car. It's so easy to just dart around. Oh, I love that. I have to say the shifter is kind of traditional BMW rubbery shifter. You know, it's certainly not as tight as like a Honda shifter or a Porsche shifter, but it's still very good. And this transmission received some serious overhaul work from BMW for this specific car, and that is evident for sure. And these get drag transmissions are known for longevity too. They're tough transmissions, so it's good to have in a car that, again, the focus was driving, and BMW knew people were going to take this car on racetracks. The steering is one of my other favorite things. It's hydraulically assisted, and it's execution excellence for hydraulic steering. It's so precise. I miss the days when this was the kind of car that other manufacturers were building. Credit to BMW continuing to build the M2 and build excellent cars like this. Although I know the styling is controversial, honestly, the styling of this car is a little controversial at the time. People called it a bathtub. What makes this car so special is that it is wonderful to drive, but it's also very rare. And that's reflected in the values of these cars. Although, you know, the M2 is a technically superior car to this, and it did get an M engine with the competition. The current car obviously has an M engine. The thing about it is that this car was just more rare, substantially more rare. And because of that, they have held their value really well. This one obviously is an exception. With under 3,000 miles, this is like the creme de la creme. This is what you really want. And black is the rarest color of the three. But again, it's easy to see why even examples of these with miles on them are expensive cars. You can get an M2 and it is technically better, but it just won't hold its value like this, and that's kind of one of the appealing things about this car. It definitely will hold its value. All right, let's breathe on the throttle a little bit here in a straight line. Oh yeah, look at it, it's squirrely. That's great. This car, oh yeah, the steering is excellent. Just bucket loads of character. Yeah, what a great engine. Oh, and the brakes. Yeah, this car, I can tell, is a riot. I wish I could go drive it on a twisty road, but even so, like, I can feel the spirit of what this car has to offer. And what it has to offer is fun. This car is so fun. The suspension in this car is kind of what you would expect. It's pretty stiff. Everything I run over, I feel directly in the seat, which is exactly what you want. It gives you the feedback you're looking for. And although it's not the EDC system that was found in the M3 that gave you the ability to choose exactly how stiff you want the ride to be, it's perfectly akin to exactly what this car is focused. The people who were gonna buy this car were drivers. They wanted to go use the cars, and it makes sense that the suspension is set up this way. That said, there's not a ton of body roll on this car, which is great. So although it might not necessarily be the most comfortable, it accomplishes what it's set out to do, which is to provide excellent driving characteristics to this already very good chassis. Oh. And I have to say, this car sounds nice too. I love the way it has a real hint of, I get real S54 sounds from this straight six. It doesn't have the induction noise, of course, of that engine, but it's still very nice. And I really think that it was unfairly leveled against this car, that it wasn't a real M car because of the engine. It's absolute horse pucky. This is without question a real M car. And in my mind, not only because of its low production numbers, this car deserves to be worth what it's worth. This is a special driving experience. The M2 exists, but if you want a really special collector grade BMW from the modern era, to be honest with you, there are not many cars that can rival this in terms of its production numbers, in terms of how awesome it is to drive. It's a really special car, and I'm so grateful that I got to experience one that is as fresh as this right out of the box. I see why people loved it then, and I love it now. What a great M car. Just sitting in traffic in this car, one of the other things I love is that, like, you'd have to know what this car is. It looks pumped up and stuff like that, but this is definitely an if you know kind of car. And if you want something that's really special and that only people who are into cars are going to approach you to talk about it, this is very high on that list. It is subtle enough that a normal person isn't going to look at it and think, you know, that it's something really special and ultra collectible. So you can still use it. And I think that's one of the appeals of the 1M. It's very special, and I can't believe how small it feels. Like, just surrounded by SUVs, this is a itty bitty little car. It's the right side, and all the lanes and the road feel huge. To me, in my mind, this isn't that old of a car, but I guess 2011, 2012, that was a while ago now, so things really have changed. But I'm happy that this car existed in the time that it did. I'm happy it got all the great E9X stuff. I think it just looks so good. Oh, here's a guy in an E36 M3. He's gonna appreciate it. We'll give him a little flash and a wave. Yeah, there you go. Love it. Just a special machine. And that's the recognition you kind of want with this car. Real recognizing real there. But what a car. I just am so, this is a special driving experience. It's just what BMW used to do and do really well, and I appreciate it so much for that. It's just, I would buy one with more miles on it so I personally can enjoy it, but if you want truly one that's an academic level of clean and preserved, Look no further. This is definitely that car. It's just crisp as could be. And that is the BMW 1M. This car is everything a BMW should be. 6-cylinder engine in the front, manual transmission in the middle, rear-wheel drive. And more than that, this car offers a joyous analog driving experience. It is fun and it is special and it is still one of the best BMWs. And that is why they're so collectible. And if you've been in the market for one of these, well, you can buy this one on Cars and Bids. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Goodbye.